get going. Go ahead and start our YouTube simulcast, and I will start the recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay. We had a fabulous meeting last month with all the candidates, and we lost the middle of it because of internet connective problems. So, I mean, we had the meeting, but we just couldn't share it with anybody. And so Ian says he's got a good system figured out, but I'm backing it up with the recording. So we got it covered. All right, as we usually do, I would like to open the meeting with our land acknowledgement to remind us all that we live on basically stolen land. We acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfaliti Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we're on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Siletz tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. I'd like to invite all of us to reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the Indigenous land and communities. We invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribes to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. And I'd like to say that's what we're here for, is to take care of the land and the people. So with that, I would, we're going to talk a little bit about the, hold on. The first thing, I'm in the middle of a treatment for a gut malady that I've been suffering for about a year, and it causes brain fog. And so if I say something dumb or I'm not on top of things like I like to be, please forgive me and help me. I'll do my best. But okay, where are we? What's going on here? There we are. Okay, we will, hi Pam, we will go ahead and hear from our service providers tonight. If you're not a panelist, go ahead and turn off your camera, and we will have, let's just start with Brian and find out what's going on at the Park District.
Virginia, thank you. My name is Brian Yorstone. I am a center supervisor at both the Athletic Center and the Tennis Center over at the main HMT complex on 158th and Walker. My update tonight, number one, the outdoor splash pads are going to be returning, hopefully, if the weather ever gets any better. We are preparing for warmer weather and expect to have the outdoor splash pads open by Memorial Day weekend. We currently have 4 splash pads. The one down south is at Conestoga Rec Center. We also have it at Reflections Plaza, which is on Cornell and Joy Street. Timberland Park, which is Cornell and Barnes. And then lastly, our newest one is Cedar Hills Park, which is Cedar Hills just north of Walker. Ridgewood Park Dog Run. We're going to be in construction starting this fall for installing a permanent dog run at that park. Some good news is the Stir Center is hosting Meals on Wheels for in-person dining Mondays and Wednesdays again, with lunch served from 12 to 1. And then also Texas Hold'em has been a huge success, which is Tuesdays from 10 o'clock to 2 p.m. And the center is also offering cooking classes, which are super popular. So if you know anybody that might be interested, please pass that along. We have some free fitness in the park classes. These classes, if you want to go online, obviously, I just said they're free. If you can, please check our website for details. Rain
phprd.com
at
org.
thprd.org. Yes, ma'am. Rain reminder, we've had some cancellations due to the rain on both, or at both our fields and some of our parks when it comes to maintenance. So if you see grass is long, if you can let folks, just please be aware that, it's difficult to get our mowers out on the grass when it's too wet. It leaves ruts. And then once the soil dries, it's a safety hazard. And then lastly, for Tualatin Hills, we're hiring. We especially need aquatics instructors, lifeguards, and summer camp staff. Our swim classes have been greatly reduced by staffing shortages. So if you know anybody that might be interested, please help spread the word. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If not, I will pass back to Virginia.
You mentioned splash pads. Does that include the one at what's it called? The new low-income housing in Cedar Mill?
It does, yes.
Okay, I wasn't listening. Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay. What do we got going here? Like I said, I'm really not on top of it. Let's go ahead and hear from Tualatin Valley Water District.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me. We just have a few brief announcements. One was we had an episode of Talking Water, which is our virtual customer information series on Monday. And so the recording for that is online now. And the topic was starting up your spring irrigation system. So there's lots of tips there on how to make adjustments to your sprinkler control system, as well as make minor repairs and examine your system to make sure it's pointing where you want it to, so that we're not wasting water. So we encourage you to check that out. There's the slide deck as well as the video. And the other thing, an announcement, is our rate setting process. We operate on a biennial budget. And so the rate increase for November 1st, 2022 was set a year ago. Due to the inflationary pressures on the construction that we are not able to delay because our contract to buy water from Portland ends. And we have all the permits and all the design and almost all of the contracts established with the contractors. So we're going to have to proceed with our capital projects, and those are coming in at a significantly higher rate due to the inflationary and supply chain issues that we're all seeing at the grocery store and at the pump. So the board has decided to reopen that November 1st rate setting process. So we will run another hearing and public input process. Next week at our board meeting on Wednesday night, the financial plan will be presented to the board, which gives updated projections for these costs and will establish the staff recommendation for the rate increase amount. And so I'll be back next month, or you can tune into our board meetings next Wednesday night. But we will, be sending a postcard and continuing to get out there and let people know. The approved amount was 9.5%. So we know it'll be higher than that. I just don't have the proposal yet to tell you what the numbers will be. And we had Drinking Water Week last week, which is a national celebration for the benefits and public health and fire protection that your treated drinking water provide. And our water quality report for the samples, all the samples collected in the previous year, is available too. So I'll put links in the chat on our website, tvwd.org. We have a summary of links for the irrigation, and then we also have our water quality link, and I'll put those in there as well as my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Corinne, were you going to give an update for the police or sheriffs, or do you want to just wrap that into your regular presentation?
We have Deputy Wood as one of our attendees. It looks like, I don't know if either you're able to.
Promoted. Let's promote that man.
And then
A
I
woman,
think
I don't know.
also
Deputy Wood, how do I know?
it is it is Brian Wood. I think also, oh, Bruce, there you are. Bruce made it onto the panel. So
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, so good evening, everyone. I am Corinne Haining with Public Affairs and also the Elder Safe program through the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Just a couple of quick updates from me. In a couple of weeks on Saturday, May 21st, we'll be hosting the Canine Trials once again at the Hillsborough Stadium. So this is a chance for canine teams from around the area to come and compete to see who will be top dog. And that is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a free family-friendly event. And there will be some like a safety fair going on that starts at 10, as well as a vendor fair. So lots to do that weekend, that Saturday. And then the other thing that I just wanted to highlight is tomorrow night, we have been doing through the month of April, a 3-part sheriff showcase. And our last one was delayed because of probably an unfortunate accident that you heard about involving one of our deputies. So that one that was meant to be our final one had been postponed until tomorrow evening, which is Wednesday, May 11th. It will just be streamed live on Facebook from 7 to 8 p.m. And I believe we will be featuring one of our deputies on our West Side Interagency Narcotics team. So a drug expert, and also one of our school resource officers, and the lieutenant who oversees the emerging homeless outreach program. So with that, I will turn it over to Deputy Wood. And do you want me to share my screen so that others can see the crime map as well, Deputy Wood?
Sure.
Okay.
There it is. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
I think a little bit. Can you either speak a little louder or?
Yeah, these speakers aren't very good. Is that better?
A little better.
Okay.
How is that for you,
It's
Virginia?
muffled.
Muffled.
Anyway, do the best you can.
All right, I'll do the best I can. So I only got a quick chance to look at the crime map. A lot of times you'll see a concentrated area of one type of crime. In this case, it's over off of just north of 26. Looks like there's a bunch of thefts. Now, these could be, you know, anything from theft from vehicles, theft from yards, garages, anything like that. A lot of the times, what we see is criminals will go into a specific neighborhood and they'll just start trying car doors, and they will just find open car doors and they'll take whatever's in it. And so in the morning, when people come out to their cars, they see that they've been rummaged through, and they call us, and then we get 5, 6, 7 calls, and it's all related to probably the same person. So it goes to, you know, like I said, people are asleep at night. We try to do our best on, you know, continued patrols, and we look at these maps to patrol the neighborhoods. But if you definitely, you know, we go off of, if you see something, say something, definitely call 911 to dispatch, or if you think someone's actually actively breaking into a car, you can call 911. Definitely keep everything under your car, keep car doors locked. We're getting to summer, spring-ish right now, so people, they have their garage doors open during the day when they're mowing their lawns and doing yard work, and then they kind of forget to close their garage doors, and people can be in and out of those pretty fast. So just keep everything locked up, and keep your vehicles locked up. And the best thing is to just when you see something, definitely give us a call. Try to get a best description you can of the person, and if they are in a vehicle, give them a good description of the vehicle and the license plate, and then call us and let us know.
All right.
Yeah, I could only understand about 6 words.
Okay.
Your mic is really muffled. But Corinne, maybe you know what he was talking about. And if anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand. Got to work on that microphone, Deputy Wood.
Yeah, I'll work on it. It's the equipment they gave us. I don't know if there's a microphone up here or not.
Janet Patrick.
Oh, yes. I see a question in the chat asking
Yeah,
to
I allowed
repeat
her to
the.
talk. Janet?
Okay, I'm like you. I couldn't understand a word he said. So I just wanted you to know, and I'll lower my hand for the next question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I will, Corinne will send me the crime map and I'll post it on, let's scroll up and see the top of the map. I don't know if there's a way to make it all fit in the screen, but.
I know, I was trying to look at that. There's smaller. The main things that, just to summarize very briefly, Deputy Wood was talking about how you may see certain concentrated crimes in a particular neighborhood or area. And so when people call those in, it's maybe the same car prowler or set of car prowlers that were hitting a particular street or couple streets on a given night or day, and with the weather getting nicer, just a reminder to folks about the 9 p.m. routine. So to be sure that you're turning your lights on, bringing in valuables, and making sure your car doors are locked, because the vast majority of the crime, particularly the vehicle, the car prowls that we're seeing are crimes of opportunity. So when people leave the door open, and it's just easy for those looking to grab whatever they can. And we've actually had neighbors send our community members send in Zoom video, or not Zoom, Ring videos for help with identifying people as they're checking car doors. And I hear, I work at the sheriff's office, and so I hear deputies talking about this, but it was very eye-opening to me to see a particular Ring video where it was maybe 3 a.m, and you can just see people going car door to car door very quickly, and the ones that are locked, they just move on. So it's very fast, it's very methodical, but when they find one that's open, then it's free for all.
I used to be really bad about that, and then I realized how stupid I would feel if failing to push that little button made me lose stuff I wanted.
Is the volume better now?
Not really.
No, okay. We'll work on it next time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that, Deputy Wood. Let me see.
Well, somebody was asking for you to please repeat the information about the canine trials.
Yes, I can. I'm happy to type it in the chat. It will be Saturday, May 21st at the Hillsborough Stadium. And there will be a safety fair from 10 to noon. The actual event, the canine trials, last from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's, fun for all ages, free. And I believe there's even a little opportunity at the end for people to, say hi to the canines themselves.
I'm going to type my Gmail address, which is mine and Bruce's and Vicky's. And somebody was asking about getting a printable copy of the crime map. Corinne sends them to me and I post them on Facebook, but I know that not everybody uses Facebook. So I will post it on Facebook, But if you don't use Facebook and can, if you want the crime map, send me an email and I'll send you the file.
So
That will work.
I put in a little speaker thing I found. Is that better or no?
No.
Okay, I'm giving up then. I'm sorry. We'll work on it next time. Sorry about this.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't know if it's your mic or your sound card or what, but it sounds like you're speaking from underneath a mattress.
Thank you for logging in and taking the time.
Okay, great. I think we'll go ahead and move along. Do we have any more community partners that need to give us a report? I don't think so. I think we're good. And we didn't have anything from TBFNR this time. And we're going to hear more from the sheriff's office in a few minutes. Well, I have a very puzzling and sad announcement, which is we filed the appeal that everybody voted for last month against the BG development on Thompson Road, and BG turned around and sued the county for it's a writ of mandamus that said that the county took too long to approve the development application, and it brings up so many questions. We're still really not completely sure what's going on. I posted some information again on our CPO website, CPO Facebook page. We don't have our own website, and we don't have much control over it, the one on the county site. But in any case, we don't really know where we're at. The county council, the county's attorney is working on it. They're still trying to figure out what it means. Land use and transportation can't talk to us. I did have a exchange of email information with the county attorney who's working on it, who obviously can't tell me much, but he had a little bit of information to share. But it's there's our email address, and there's our CPO1 Facebook page. I just posted some information there to share because it's too complicated to try to drag it out here. But and with that email address, did that get in there? Where did it go? Yeah, there it is, cpo1leaders@gmail.com. If anybody wants to see a copy of the appeal that we filed, we're not sure if anybody's going to actually look at it, but you're welcome to email me and I'll send you the copy of that. So it has implications for community involvement in land use. I had a talk with Mary Manso, who's been involved with CPO7, and she actually had a question for Pam, and I see that you're here. If you want to jump in, she was asking that if the county, if LUT has such staffing problems, that they're going to get slapped with a lawsuit because they can't respond to development applications in time. That's kind of a problem. So, I know that you were looking into things. Do you have anything? I mean, we're all sort of baffled at this point.
I think that that's an accurate statement, and I just heard about this yesterday. So I was in budget meetings last night, and I do believe that our attorney that is focused on this is Rob Bovet. And Rob is unwinding these issues, and I do believe that that the group that you're referring to, Virginia, also has an attorney who has been speaking. And I'm not talking about the development group. I'm talking about the neighborhood group, if you will, and. Yes. And they are talking. So at this point, I'm sorry, I don't have any more to share, but as you mentioned, the two of us talked today. I immediately called and tried to understand where the situation is, and I think right now we'll know more very soon. And I think the best thing I'm going to recommend is that we communicate with you, Virginia, so that you can post or make available information for others. And I I understand what Mary's question is that, and I believe it boils down to is this situation affected by staffing issues? I
Yep.
think that's the bottom
And
line.
Mary Lou just posted in chat kind of the distillation of the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I I don't know that I don't believe that's the issue, but I can get back to you about that as well. And by the
Yeah.
way, Mary Lou, thank you for liking my background. It is Asian Pacific,
Yeah,
Asian
really,
American
that's
Native
nice.
Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So, but not to be
Yeah,
not. I do want you to know that I'm taking this very seriously, and I will be in communication as well. So
yeah.
that's
I mean,
it's.
I've never seen this happen. I'm not sure that,
You're not the first person I've
it's,
heard that from today.
pardon?
So, I said, you're not the first person I have heard. I've never seen this
Right,
happen before today. So
right.
I
And
think we're all trying
it
to,
has severe implications for the future
it
um,
does. It,
of,
and
I
I think
would just put this in the chat as well in case anybody has a burning desire to go to court. The hearing is Monday, May 23rd at 9 a.m. And it looks to me like it's an in-person hearing. It's the show cause hearing, which I believe is sort of the first step in the whole thing. And whether we have any standing to make a statement as one of the appellants, we don't know yet, but we're paying attention. It's
and I will let
disturbing
you
thing.
I will let you know that in my discussions this afternoon, um, at this point, I'm free to tell you that we don't know all the particulars yet, and that's why you don't have someone here that's that is giving you more information than I can. And
No, nobody can. And that's the thing with the
but it's
lawsuit is that
only well, I don't know. There's parts of it that because of a lawsuit you won't be able to talk about, but there are steps that I do want to make sure we communicate
yeah,
with the CPO1 and with frankly with all of our constituents in this, especially those that live in that area.
yeah,
So I will be, and I've been pushing on LUT as well to make sure that we've got the information coming forward, and they're working to try to get the information. So, it's just unfortunate that it all happened so soon before the CPO meeting that
that's
I don't
right.
have the
And we've
answers.
been told that if we want to have standing in this hearing, that we have to do something by Friday. And so I don't know.
Well, I will be communicating back.
Thank you. We
And,
appreciate it. Well,
and
you're our rep.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Here I am. So
Yeah, you
anyway,
get all the
but
fun jobs.
yep, that's what we
Okay.
sign up for. So, okay, well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
at least
And
in brief.
I thought maybe Melissa was going to be here, but I don't see her. And I'm not sure she wanted to say anything anyway.
There's really, I'm the one who's authorized to say that there's nothing to say right at this moment.
That's, I mean, I felt like I got a little bit more information from the county council today, just in terms of wrapping our heads around it, but not the details. So, and he specifically said the implications for community involvement in land use. And that's really, where we're feeling it's beyond the issue of that particular development. It's, yeah. Anyway,
Of course it
moving
is.
right
You're
along.
absolutely right. I said, of course it is. You're absolutely right. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll let you
So
move along.
does anybody have any questions about this? I'm happy to try to as well as to what small degree I understand it. I'm not a lawyer, but I raised one. My son's.
Virginia, what I might suggest is that if there are questions, that you can send them to me, and at my county email. And we just got one that says, "Quick question: does the city or the county have authority in matters of development?"
Well, this is the county. We don't have a city, and yes, they can approve or deny development applications.
Yes. So I am putting my, oops. I'm
Right.
putting
And
my,
while you're doing that, they approved a development, and some of the neighbors and the CPO felt that it was a poor decision for a number of reasons. And we filed an appeal against that decision. And in the normal course of things, then it goes to a hearings officer, and everybody has the chance to present their case. In this case, the BG Development, BG Investments Company filed this lawsuit against the county, which shuts that appeal process down, as far as I know. We just don't know. So, and I think we'll just have to see.
the appeal, in my humble opinion, the appeal process should go forward. So we'll, that's, but that's my belief. I don't know the legal constraints here, but I will know them soon.
Right.
So,
I mean,
and
we were, we were prepared to start putting our case together and take it to the hearings officer. But when
I think that work should probably still continue.
I hope so. Anyway,
so I put my,
it's all pretty geeky for most folks, but if you're here at this CPO meeting, you're here because you want to have some inkling of what's going on in your community and maybe have a voice in it. And this is definitely serious.
So I've also put I have put my email address in the chat as well. So
great.
Thank you.
And if I get questions, I'll forward them to you. We'll stay in touch.
Virginia has me on speed dial.
Well, the people from Trammell Crow are here to tell us about a big, huge new development that is, we heard several years ago about a mixed use development that would be going in up at the old Cedar Hill Shopping Center where the DMV is now, and Harbor Freight and everything. It used to be a Safeway and so on and so forth. And it was going to be a mixed use development. And it was shortly before COVID hit, and one thing and another, that didn't go forward. And now I believe, Damon, maybe you can explain, your company bought, I'm not sure that the land ever changed hands at that point, but maybe you can explain it to us. Take it away.
Yeah, I can give you just a brief update, and then I can let Julio, our architect, run through some images so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, before we were involved in this project, another developer had taken a larger project through the same process effectively and had gotten it approved, and then backed out for unknown reasons, frankly. At which point, the seller went and looked for someone else to do it. And we came in with what we think is the best project we can conceive. There is not any retail associated with it at this point. It is very difficult to basically get parking to work with retail involved in it. And so we think this is a better solution that mitigates sort of all the varying, community economic needs of all of these projects. These are all similar projects that you see in all the different jurisdictions, downtown Beaverton, Portland, and the like. So they're all similar approaches, similar processes, similar buildings. And I'll give it to Julio and let him show you what we have collectively come up on this one. And we have turned this package in to the city of Beaverton as of last week. So that is basically our status. And take it away, Julio. You can show them what we're planning to do.
Great, thank you, and thanks for turning my camera on. Okay, this is our project here. I think you probably know where this is. Here's the 26 and here's the 217. What we've turned into the city, what we're proposing is
And he's
Virginia's.
saying city because it is the city of Beaverton, which happens, that part of the city of Beaverton happens to also be part of CPO1. So I don't want to confuse everybody, but this is the city of Beaverton application. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. So what we have is four buildings, two bar buildings and two L-shaped buildings. As you can see here, we call them A, B, C, and D. We are proposing 401 residential units, homes, and the height of the buildings is 5 stories. One lower level, which is basically all parking and required landscape areas to maximize our parking completely, and 4 stories of residential above, both a mix of flats and multi-story units, sometimes referred to as townhouses. We're also proposing a large amenity deck for the residents on level 2. I'll walk you through some renderings. This would be the northeast corner. What we're proposing here is a lot of variety, a lot of different materials and textures to try to really create a sort of like a village feel for the project, and breaking down the massing because it is rather large. And here we're proposing to reuse the letters from the sign and repurpose them throughout the project, but try to do something like this here in this prominent corner. Here you can see that this would be screening for the vehicles beyond. We're not allowed by ODOT to plant trees here, but we will do as much landscaping as we can. Next image. This is on the north side, looking between 2 buildings. You can see this elevated amenity deck beyond. Again, a mix of forms, and where we have these gables come down will be our residential entry. So really accentuating the entries for the residents there, and the use of balconies as well. This is another view from the north side in between 2 of the buildings. You can see the vehicular entry would be here, it's gated off. And again, where we have a residential lobby, we've got canopies, glazing, and a gable form, sort of implying the idea of residence. A view from the south, looking north. Here you can see we would have our entry here, a little plaza for people, glazed entry, leasing office, whatnot. And the second building here, this is building B, with our main entry on this side. And you can see building B beyond. Lots of parking along the street, and of course inside the project. This is a view inside, where we are having a large amenity deck here with access down to the parking area for the residents, balconies on the inside, and we'd like to be able to provide sedums and some kind of planting over the carports to make that a more pleasing experience for the residents inside. And another view, this is from level 2 of one of the buildings, looking out over this amenity deck, which would have a very long swimming pool, cabanas, and different barbecue areas, a small area for putt-putt golf, and those kinds of features on the deck. And here you can see the parking below here. And again, a lot of different materials, different forms, trying not to overwhelm the project. And this is just a massing study in black and white to catch the massing. So that is our general overview of the project.
Okay. One of the neighbors submitted a list of questions, which your associate sent me back the answers. And again, I stuck that up on our CPO1 Facebook page. We used to have a website, and it was just too much work to keep it updated. And the county doesn't let us put anything on our CPO area there. So I'm afraid I have to rely on the Facebook page. And I know a lot of people hate Facebook, but it's the best way we have of posting information. So I don't know if it's worth going through some of those questions. Probably
If-
would.
If you'd like me to, Virginia, I can try to address some of these questions that came up in the chat. If you want to, I don't know if you want to do that first, or you want to try to
It's
go.
way
through the
too
questions.
long to put in chat. It was
Damon, I have the questions that were asked and the answers that Aaron
Oh,
provided.
great.
If you want me to do that, Aaron, Damon, or Aaron.
Sure.
Okay.
They were
Yeah,
good
just trying to
questions.
address all the questions. So
Okay,
whatever
yeah.
order we want to go in.
Okay. Virginia, would you like me to go through that first list of questions?
Sure. They were
Okay,
good
great.
questions, and I'm
Yeah,
sure most of the neighbors have the same ones.
They were. So the first question was, what recent studies have looked at the overall impact of all the proposed development zoning changes on the adjacent neighborhoods? And our answer is there are no zoning changes. We're not proposing any zoning changes to the site. The next question is, has there been a comprehensive study on the impact to on-street parking in the adjacent neighborhoods bounded by Marlow, Wilshire, East Ridge Park, Butner, and the no-name street connecting Park to Wilshire, which becomes the on-ramp for 217 South? And the answer is no, and we note that we were providing well over the minimum required parking on site. After that is, will the existing number of parking spaces at Cedar Hills be maintained, and will there be at least one parking space for each new residential unit constructed? The answer is the development will exceed the minimum parking requirements and will exceed one space per unit. What is the rationale? Well, what is the rationale for allowing the height restrictions to be removed so the structures can double the existing height limitations? And our answer is height restrictions have not been removed. We are well under the height limit allowed and the density limit allowed on the site. Has there been a study of the potential impact on the Ridgewood Elementary School regarding increase in number of students from the proposed development and safety issues related to children getting to and from the development of the school? Our response is we have a will-serve letter, letter of support, and some other non-industry term letters from the school district. I should add, we've reviewed this and have approval from fire. We've got letters from schools, we've got letters from water and sewer, as well as traffic studies. Has there been a comprehensive study on the additional engineering and building requirements that will ensure the safety of these high-rise buildings during an earthquake? The buildings will be built to current seismic code, which I can guarantee you are very strict and probably safer than anything else around there. And these buildings are not high-rise in their construction type. We are well under 75 feet to the top story. Has there been a recent and comprehensive traffic study on the impact of all the added ingress and egress from the proposed development as it relates to entering and exiting to and from routes 217 and 26, along with daily traffic flow along Wilshire, East Ridge, Marlow, Butner, and Park? Yes, the parking study has been approved by the City of Beaverton and ODOT. The previous development had 500 units and their traffic impact study was approved as well, but ours is way less dense. Will the abandoned gas station at the corner of Cedar Hills with its potential hazards be cleaned up? The response is the abandoned gas station is not on this property and is not part of this development.
And then I can just, there's several questions in the chat related to retail. We're not against retail. I love retail. I love mixed use buildings. I spent a decade at Girding Edlin, which was the quintessential mixed use developer in the country for a while. I grew up in Cedar Mill on Old Quarry Road. I am intimately aware of this site. We just finished a project in Lake Oswego called Mercado Grove at the end of 217 that has almost 50,000 square feet of retail. These projects are kind of like whack-a-mole. It's not a linear path. There's a lot of reasons and nuances to why things work. We think this project just works better without it. You kind of need a critical mass of retail for it to really be effective and to work and to get people to lease space in it. And there just really isn't the room here to make that work. So we're not adverse to it. We get it. But just the lay of the land. Julio, you're still sharing your screen, by the way. So it just, we'd love to try, and it just kind of, we looked at it at this project, and it kind of complicates everything and makes it hard to get done. And so we chose on this one, not necessarily because we wanted to, but because it just was a reality of getting the project done that we couldn't pull it off in this instance. But understand the concern and the desire, and it didn't make a lot of sense on this one, but we definitely looked at it and tried. We're always trying to make these as good as we can.
Dan and Julio, sorry.
Okay.
I am aware that there's going to be a second meeting, which I posted here. Will everyone in that neighborhood get the information about that meeting? Do you want me to collect names of people and forward them on to you to get invitations to that? Because I know we have limited time here tonight, and that's a problem.
I mean, look, we want the community input. I mean, we always listen. You know, everyone knows their neighborhood, so we want the input. We take all ideas. We try to make every idea involved in the project. We are early in the design process, so we have months and months of design to do. So yeah, I mean, everyone's welcome. That's on the 24th. Am I right there, Julio, Aaron?
Yeah, it's 24th at 7 p.m. And
it's kind of a standard city of Beaverton process. So, you know, we kind of, you know, are sort of forced to follow their guidelines and how that process works. And so it is kind of a prescriptive way the city of Beaverton does it. But yeah, we you know, anyone is welcome.
Somebody asked
the
about
public
the
access.
zoning.
Someone asked about that one. So real quick, let me address that just so you guys are clear. So the project does not include the DMV and Harbor Freight. It is on a separate piece of land, and those leases run for a very, very long time. And as you can imagine, the DMV is a very hard thing to relocate. So several of the tenants in there, some of them just didn't want to keep going and just wanted to go away and were on month-to-month leases. Some of them we facilitated relocations to other places in the area. The DMV and Harbor Freight just simply did not want to move and were not able to find any viable way to move. There is about a 30-foot space in between those two parcels that we have a path going through because we know that everyone is interested in basically making connections and being able to get through to the MAC station and just through the community. And the city of Beaverton also made a strong point about that. So there is a path in between those two parcels that goes through there.
There were some good questions here in chat. I can answer a couple of them. The zoning designation was a very special neighbor or transit-oriented retail. I can't remember exactly the designation, but they actually got some variances when the previous developer proposed it. So I can imagine that this would fit well within all of that.
Yeah, we're not proposing any variances, any modifications, any changes to the zoning, to the height. We just, you know, we basically just followed the kind of the letter of the law here and the process of the city of Beaverton, and it just trying to make the best project possible within, you know, the realities.
And Beaverton definitely has a design review process. This will go through the full design review process. There will be hearings in Beaverton, and it'll get looked at for sure. And, you know, I've got to say, I wondered about just getting up there. There's some great little businesses there, and there's certainly I mean, the DLB is a destination, and people do find their way up there, but it isn't at the crossroads of anything except the real crossroads, but it isn't easy to get there.
Yeah, no, I mean, Virginia, you kind of, you know, it is one of the challenges of the site. There really is no there. It's a destination for specific reasons, but, you know, you have such a strong cluster of retail at, you know, the Cedar Hills Crossing, you know, in the downtown that is really burgeoning. And, you know, like I said, I grew up in this neighborhood. This was town to me. I remember Tower Records and Beaverton Mall. So
I have a question. Have you thought about working with Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec to make any of that interior space available to the public?
You know, it gets pretty complicated in these buildings in terms of people's desire to have secured environments and access control environments, and, you know, the fire department access and how your amenities work. And it's an unfortunate complication in today's world that, you know, people have you're trying to balance basically public access and people's desire for privacy and security and safety and all those things. And so we try to find balances to that and create, you know, as good an environment as possible without compromising, you know, the people who live in these buildings and, you know, their desires and demands as well. So trying to do both.
We can't get through every single thing that needs to be looked at tonight. And if any of the people that are here tonight don't get the notice for the second meeting, you can send me an email and I will forward your name on to the development team and they will send you an invitation. I don't feel like I should share the invitation, but I can share the names and you guys can send them the invitation for another Zoom meeting. Right? Yes, I guess so. I've already put it in above. It's CPO1. Oops.
I'll go ahead and mention that we on the back of the signs we printed a bunch of flyers with the link to the Zoom meeting and put it in plastic and taped them up to the back of the signs as well.
Okay, good. I'm sorry we didn't have enough time to really delve into it, but good luck, everybody, to the neighbors too. Okay, it's time for us to hear from the sheriff's office about their bond measure.
Thank you.
Not a bond measure, ballot measure. Corinne, unmute yourself.
Just
Corinne.
Sorry.
Can you figure out how to do that as a slideshow? It just makes
Yes,
it so
I
much
will.
easier to work.
I have somebody knocking on the door very quickly. Just
Oh dear. Lieutenant Rawlinson, are you gonna do some presentation? She just had to leave.
Yeah, I am. She and I are going to sort of tag team the
Okay,
presentation when we
well,
get started.
She said she had somebody knocking at the door, so.
I heard that's unusual, but that's the nature of Zoom sometimes, right? People are at
It
home
is.
doing stuff. So just give her just a half a second. And then if she's not back, I'll just start. For those of you I haven't met,
There she is.
I'm Ed Rawlinson. I am the lieutenant over your area if you live north of Highway 26. And I work out of the Bethany precinct. I've been at the sheriff's office for about 24 years now. So when we get to the end, if you have questions, we'll try to help that too. Hopefully you can hear me better than Deputy Wood. I'm using an old pair of iPhone headsets so you can hear me. So hopefully that's working okay. Let Corinne start.
thank you. Thank you for your patience. That was just my daughter running in to get her toothbrush. Yes, so I'm Corinne Haining. I'm with Public Affairs, as I said earlier, in the Elder Safe program at the Sheriff's Office. Tonight, Lieutenant Rawlinson and I will be speaking on Measure 34-310, which is the local option levy to maintain enhanced police services. So tonight we will be covering who does the levy serve, what services the levy provides, voter impacts, and then covering any questions that you may have. And I know that there are still others to present after us, so we want to be respectful of everyone's time.
So the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District has been around since 1987. It's sort of a unique mechanism that provides urban level of service in unincorporated areas of Washington County. As all of you that come to the CPO meetings know, Washington County is quite unique in that we have a very large population that lives in unincorporated parts that are normally serviced by a city. And those areas we serve, and the sheriff's office does that. And so it's different if you live in ESPD versus if you live, say, out in the west end of the county, outside the urban growth boundary. And so what it does is it bumps the traditional county level of service of about half of an officer per 1,000 residents up to one officer per 1,000 residents. And so the levy's been around for about 30 years now, like I mentioned. And a little trivia piece for you: the sheriff was one of the people, he's the only one left that was hired from the original ESPD levy 30 years ago.
So who receives services from the ESPD, or Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District? Looking at this map set back, the dark gray area is most of the area for all of Washington County. And then in the sort of highlighted or zoomed in circle, we have a few different colors or areas represented. So the white areas are the municipalities such as Hillsborough, Beaverton, Tigard, and the gold areas represent the enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District areas. So you recognize Bethany, Cedar Mill, Cedar Hills, and many others in there. The whole county population is around 620,000. It's the second largest county in Oregon. And for residents inhabiting the Enhanced Service Patrol District area, it's about 214,000. So about 1/3 of the population of Washington County resides within one of these Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District sections.
Sort of carry on with that, if ESPD was a city, it would be the second largest city in the state. And so that's the size police agency that we are. A lot of folks think they live in Portland because that's their mailing address, or in Beaverton, and live in unincorporated Washington County. And you can look on our Who Patrols Your Neighborhood website to see if we cover you and you're not sure. And so the levy pays for primarily patrol deputies, but also training, personnel, equipment to maintain the current levels of service. It helps us to rapid response to 911 calls, appropriate response to mental health calls. All of our deputies get some extra training when it comes to helping those in crisis. And it is about giving them the help that they need versus getting them into the system. The idea is to keep them out of the criminal justice system, but get them to the right resources. So if you're not familiar with our mental health response team, a clinician rides with a deputy and help, and they're trained, and they have certain different authorities that we don't have as far as helping people with mental health crisis. And so that's been a really good partnership that we've had for about 12 years now. Do a lot of de-escalation training, which is usually through sort of simulation of scenario-based training, which is the standard for law enforcement. We also have other deputies that are trained specifically in negotiations, mental health, like I mentioned, and we have a new program called HOPE, which is the Houseless Outreach Program. As I'm sure everyone's aware, that's been a burgeoning problem in the county the last couple of years. And so we're working with different other partner parts of the county to figure out how best to get those folks resources, while also keeping both the houseless folks and the people doing outreach safe. And so we're just starting up a team with a couple of sergeants and deputies to kind of specialize in that, while all of our deputies will get some training. We also worked a lot in getting training in overdoses. If you're not familiar, fentanyl in particular has been a problem in our county on the rise. And one of the things that we do now is we all carry Narcan, which helps somebody snap out of an overdose so that we can get them medical treatment that they need. And so we also work with our WIN team, who does the enforcement side of the drug stuff. And so the last thing is the ESPD, in addition to providing about half of our patrol deputies, provides funds for investigating major crimes, which is sort of part of my background, which wouldn't be homicides, assaults, burglaries, things like that, the more serious. And we also have a little piece of code enforcement and some other public safety things. So.
Sorry. If passed, the proposed levy, Lieutenant Rawlinson just sort of touched on this, would maintain services. It replaces the existing 5-year levy that will be expiring next June of 2023. So it continues enhanced support, enhanced services in the urban unincorporated areas at a level similar to the neighboring cities inside of Washington County. And it also provides the ability to increase support levels commensurate with urban unincorporated population over the life of the levy. So because it is tied to property taxes, as the population grows, there is additional support for adding that deputy per 1,000 that Lieutenant Rawlinson mentioned.
Okay, so the levy basically supports patrol specifically. It includes our frontline deputies, who are the folks that are like Deputy Wood, who spoke to you earlier, the guys and gals that'll come out and take calls from you, do traffic enforcement, things like that. Our corporals are uniformed investigators. They take some more advanced cases. They also will help run if an event gets a little bit bigger than the deputies can do by themselves. Our sergeants are essentially our first line leaders. They're out managing the road 24 hours a day, making sure that we're getting the right sort of service out to the community. Lieutenants are folks like me. Each of us has a command area that we're responsible for, which is sort of broken down similar to your neighborhoods, but not exactly. Like I mentioned earlier, I have everything north of 26 that's unincorporated. One of the other lieutenants has a LOA, things like that. And so we have criminal records specialists who do exactly what you think they would do. In addition to that, they're helping get reports to the public and the DA's office for prosecution or other government agencies that need it. Our program communication education specialists, people like Corrine, who come out and help educate the public about what we're doing, go to different community events like the fair, the tree lighting up at Bethany, and then of course administrative support, which is pretty critical to any operation, including ours.
So really getting into kind of the nitty gritty of the levy, this proposed levy rate would have a 5-year fixed rate of 83 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. And we want to remind people that the assessed value is different than the market value. This would be a 15-cent increase over the current rate. So it's currently at 68 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So this part, we're trying to give sort of a ballpark, but it really, of course, varies depending on each person's home. But if approved, owners of a home with the average assessed value of a home currently in the patrol district, so an average assessed value of $320,655, would pay about $266 in the first year of the proposed levy, or about $22 per month. The tax due in future years depends on changes in the market and assessed value. And then also policing services would be maintained in the district, as I mentioned earlier, even with the population growth over the next 5 years.
So that obviously leads to the next question: what happens if it doesn't pass? We wouldn't provide the same level of service. Your taxes would decrease, so you'd save some money. Our law enforcement funded by other avenues will continue. So some of it, you have some other staffing positions, but about 119 out of our just over 200 deputy positions would not be funded. So it would be a pretty significant impact on our staffing levels and ability to respond.
So just as a quick recap, the proposed levy would replace the current 5-year levy that will be expiring midway through next year, and maintain the current level of services in the district. Among other things that Lieutenant Rawlinson mentioned, this provides the rapid response to 911 calls, advanced training in crisis intervention and de-escalation, as well as the mental health response team and the homeless outreach programs that we are starting to stand up. It also just allows for deputies to be making those connections with community members on the issue of overdoses, particularly fentanyl, Oxycontin, and others that we've seen on the rise in recent years. So we want to make sure that we allow time for any questions that people may have specific to the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District proposed levy.
Great timing, Corinne. I was just going to ask people if they have questions. Pam's got a question.
Actually, it's not a question. I just want to share that a strong proponent of this ballot measure. Please make sure you get your votes in. Ballots are due on May 17th. This is particularly important in our CPO and in all of District 2 because we have such a large percentage of urban unincorporated Washington County. So I just want to put a plug in and say, this is so important, and the polling and the information I've received from constituents is that they're strongly in favor of this. So just my plug there. And thank you for a great job.
Yeah, and I would add that I've seen continuous improvement in the Sheriff's Department in terms of outreach and communication with people. The service has always been good and it's getting better, but in terms of communicating with folks and letting us know what's going on and communicating with the public when you interact with them, I think things are improving.
Social media really helped us with that, frankly. Makes us able to reach more people than we could before.
I haven't seen any questions from our audience. However, I also haven't seen our next presenters show up yet. So I don't know.
You just reminded me of one more thing. Oh, it looks like David is here.
David,
you just reminded me of one more thing, Virginia. I'll mention because this is CPO1 this Friday, Friday the 13th, from 8:30 to 10:30. We are in coordination with a broader county effort. We will be helping to host a mini Suicide Prevention Awareness Month mini rally at Bethany Station. So if you see us, you may see me there. You'll see some representative, from the mental health response team, and it will just be people standing on the sidewalk with signs helping to bring awareness to Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Okay, well, it turns out we do have our next presenter. We thought it was going to be Stephen Sparks from the school district, but it's David Williams. So I guess we'll thank you guys for presenting on your measure, and we appreciate it. And everybody be sure to turn in those ballots. We've got a lot of really important stuff on the ballot. It may be billed as a primary, but there's a lot of important stuff.
And Virginia, before you introduce David, I'd like to say that today is his birthday. So I want to, some things you can't.
A cake.
I can't think of anything better than to join CPO1 on my 30th birthday, or some anniversary of my 30th birthday. We'll call it that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sure. We'll believe that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. And let me share screen here. I don't have a PowerPoint, but what I do have is a really excellent website. So my name is David Williams. I am the administrator for strategic initiatives for the Beaverton School District, which is kind of just a fancy title for I'm chief of staff to the superintendent. So as many of you might know or have read on your ballot, the school board for Beaverton School District has approved for this May election a capital bond levy to replace the expiring levy that was approved in 2014. The levy is a $723 million package proposed to run through 2028. That the signature project in it is a complete rebuild of Beaverton High School and a rebuild of Raleigh Hills Elementary School. So let me, if you would bear with me, I want to play a quick 4-minute video which covers all the things that I would laboriously cover in a PowerPoint. So let me play that for you, then I'll show you 2 other things on the website and then answer any questions folks might have.
In May 2022, voters will decide on a new proposed 30-year bond that, if passed, would raise about $723 million. The proposed bond is estimated to initially cost taxpayers approximately $2.34 per $1,000 of assessed value and decline over time. That's an increase of approximately 25 cents per $1,000 of assessed value over the current tax rate. For a homeowner with an average assessed property value of $303,000, that's an increase of about $76 per year. If the bond passes, how would the district prioritize projects? Well, it started in 2019 when the district hired an outside consultant to do a comprehensive facility condition assessment of all BSD properties. The consultant scored schools and district buildings on seismic readiness, age, condition, and the amount of deferred maintenance. Then last February, the district asked you to fill out a survey that further prioritized the needs. That all resulted in a list of proposed projects that fall into 6 main categories. First, modernization at 44 of our 53 schools. Things like office relocations to increase security, classroom improvements, new playgrounds, and synthetic turf fields at some high schools. It also includes 2 school rebuilds, Beaverton High School, which was constructed in 1916, and Raleigh Hills, constructed in 1927. Second, seismic improvements. Take a look at this graph. 13 of our 53 schools currently meet or nearly meet the district's goal for damage control, leaving 40 of our schools that don't meet the district standard for earthquake readiness. If passed, the proposed bond would fund phase 1 of that work, starting with our older middle schools: Cedar Park, Five Oaks, Highland Park, Meadow Park, Mountain View, and Whitford. Other schools would be addressed in future proposed bonds. Third, technology. During the early days of the pandemic, our students used their school-issued devices for remote learning. The replacement cost for these devices is around $27.4 million and would include 2 rounds of Chromebooks for high school and 1 round of Chromebooks and iPads for middle and elementary schools. If the proposed bond does not pass, the district would not fund new one-to-one devices for student use unless general funds were allocated, potentially impacting funding for staffing and other programs. The proposed bond also would cover more than $16 million worth of network and infrastructure upgrades, as well as extra devices and parts. Fourth, if passed, the proposed bond would fund $120 million worth of deferred maintenance at most schools, projects like roof replacements and HVAC upgrades. Fifth, classroom additions at Oak Hills, Sato, and Stoller. And the 6th category, security and other equipment, including security cameras at all schools, card readers at high schools, and new buses. If the proposed bond passes, the district would receive an additional $8 million in state grant money through the Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Program. If the proposed bond doesn't pass, BSD would not receive the grant. For more information about the district's long-range facility plan and seismic study, please visit our bond website. There, you also can see exactly what projects are proposed for individual schools. If the proposed bond does not pass, projects would not go forward and the new tax rate would not be implemented. Still have questions? Feel free to submit them on that same webpage by hovering over the question mark.
Right. So as you can see, the most of the basics of this proposed bond. So let me just show you on this website. I'll post this in the chat, a link to this bond .r long address. I guess maybe participants can't see that, but if you go to the Beaverton School District website, there'll be a link right to this bond program. And you can see on here all of the links to find out all the projects that are included in this. There's a Spanish language version of the video you just saw. If you click on any of these bubbles here, it would take you, allow you to dive down in to see what the components of are each of those packages of work. And then, of course, you can click in and find whatever school your kids may go to, or you went to, or is in your community, or you're just interested in, to find out what is the various work. As is the case with many district bonds, we have funds spread across the district where need exists and where work can be done. So let's talk the dollar amounts real briefly here. As it mentioned, this is a slight increase over the existing bond. It's about a 25-cent increase in the tax rate. So from $2.09 to $2.34 per 1,000. That's about a $76 increase for the average homeowner in the Beaverton School District. And then lastly, on the bottom, there's a bunch of these bubbles here, which are great information. You can get a lot of FAQ work here. You can ask questions at this spot here. And then this one in particular, different than previous bonds, we had a wealth of information going in to this cycle. A lot of it funded and done as part of the 2014 bond, including seismic assessment reports, including facility cost index reports that we did analyzing all of the buildings across the district that really helped us to triage and understand where the best dollars were going to be spent. And as one example of that, I mentioned one of the biggest pieces in here is the rebuild of Raleigh Hills Elementary School. In the 2014 bond, we had put some couple $1 million in there for a remodel, a significant remodel of that building. However, in doing the cost analysis, the facility analysis of that building, it turns out that's one of those old throwing good money after bad. That building was simply would be chasing a faulty building from the start, an old building that had way too much work to be done. So we held that money from the 2014 bond in abeyance, and that would be combined with an additional amount from this bond that would be a complete rebuild of Raleigh Hills. And then again, of course, the big piece there in this bond, in that if we go back up, that modernization bucket of $397 million, the biggest piece there is about $230 million for a rebuild of Beaverton High School. So that's the bond in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions. Let me check. I do see a couple in the chat. Getting Intel to donate laptops. I sure would love to have Intel donate as many laptops as they're willing to offer. And we are unfortunately talking about, not unfortunately, we are talking about a very significant scale. Beaverton School District, we have 40,000 students, about 40,000 students in the district. And I will say the 2014 bond investment in devices across the system actually positioned us so that when the pandemic hit, all of our secondary students already had one-to-one. They had devices in hand, Chromebooks that they just had with them every day. We also had enough devices at the elementary school that we immediately deployed those. We don't generally send those home with elementary kids. That's not always the best idea. But for the pandemic, we unplugged all the carts, rolled them out front, and set up pickup cycles so families could come get devices at their schools. So that when we hit the pandemic, we did not lose a lot of time in being able to distribute a one-to-one device distribution at that time. Just cruising through the chat here. I feel many in need. Yeah, I get you about operational issues around PERS. I would note the legislature did some pretty significant PERS reforms a couple of years ago. I want to say, what are we in 22 now? I think it was like 2019 legislative session. I can't give you the dollar amount on what that saves. That's not in my headspace right at this moment, but I know it was significant. But I, of course, would also point out that the way we fund education in Oregon, we bifurcate. We split between operational dollars, the funds that pay for teachers, their pay and their salaries and their benefits and things like PERS, and capital funding. The state, by and large, pays for the vast majority of the operational needs of the district, the salaries and benefits, the people in the district. They pay that the state covers about 70% of that budget. And then, of course, we have local property tax collections as well as the local option levy that we've been fortunate to have. Capital investments are almost entirely locally funded through capital bond measures. So it really is a segregation of need based on that. Each student gets a new device 2 or 3 times a year. The upgrade cycles on devices vary based on the device and the students. We'll lengthen the Chromebooks out a little bit at the secondary level. At the elementary level, it's a mix of iPads, and Chromebooks that go in classroom carts and are utilized in a classroom. And those actually can even go a slightly longer. But this bond would do a 2-time adoption. It's not 2 to 3 times per year. Sorry, no, it's 2 or 3 purchases in the life of this bond. So the 8-year bond would fund 2 or 3 purchases of devices. I think 2 is the max. I don't think there's a 3 in there. Tax breaks given to Intel. Yeah, no, I get you. They're not in the Beaverton School District. Yeah, Virginia, please. I apologize for stepping on any moderating pieces there.
That's okay. maybe I'm old fashioned, but it breaks my heart that kids are spending so much time on buses because the district failed to buy land north of 26 when it was more affordable. And I didn't see anything in this bond about purchasing more land to give us more schools up here. It's kind of a hard sell for us when we feel like we've been left behind and we're told that we can just stick our kids on buses and shuttle them around the district because you guys didn't plan. Can you address that? I mean, neighborhood schools mean something. Keeping kids in neighborhoods together means something. At least it did to me.
Yeah, thanks, Virginia. And Beaverton is entering a really interesting phase when it comes to the demographics of the district. And I would note in CPO1, you look at our schools like West 12 View and Cedar Mill and some of those others. They are very small elementary schools, and they're actually declining in enrollment at this point. And that's a real challenge for us as we have this mix of enrollment across the district happening. I obviously can't speak to land purchases that were or were not made as part of the 2014 or prior bonds. That's just the reality of where we're at this moment, of where the district does have land. We've advocated for land set-asides that were not effective and we didn't accomplish, and where schools are built now are where schools are, and so that's the way we're trying to maximize that potential at the moment. As you know, we do build elementaries now to house about 750 students. So you look at Vos, Sato, Hazeldale, these elementaries that we rebuilt as part of the last bond were built brand new like Sato. These are larger schools. We find that a 300-kid elementary is not the most efficient, and that's a challenge for us, particularly when we're seeing a declining enrollment factor. And I know this is a new dynamic for Beaverton specific. As we look across the district, this build-out that has happened, we're actually seeing continued slight increase in enrollment at the high school level, and we expect that will level off in about the next 2 years as the decline of elementary kids is hitting us. So right now we're about 3,000 students down from our peak of 42,000 students. Now, some of that is a loss due to the pandemic. Students have decided to homeschool or online education outside the district or other options. But that decline began prior to the pandemic. And we see a leveling happening in the community. And we certainly need to begin to think about where we house kids across the district in there. The question, Jim posed a question about the cafeteria facility at Beaverton High School. No, that is being retained. So if you're familiar with the piece of property there, essentially that high school, that cafeteria building is probably the piece that will remain. There's some design work and land work that has to happen as part of that location. But essentially envision the Beaverton High School building, the new building would be built on the adjacent Farmington Road. As you know, there's a large amount of grass field right on the front of that property. Retain the cafeteria building and then eventually demolish the old building, which would be behind it. So that's how that works. Great question about budgeting for busing. The district has a complicated busing cost, and the state has a complicated relationship with busing. So we get reimbursed 70 cents on the dollar strictly for transportation costs. So it's not necessarily a direct cost to the district. The biggest and longest bus routes are our students that opt into using our options programs like ACMA or ISB or BASE high school. Those are 6 through 12s, where we're running through a spoke and wheel kind of a busing system for those. I don't have specific busing costs. I know we have posted our budget. We're in budget season right now. So if you go to our website, you'd also be able to find the district's proposed budget posted there, and you would be able to find the transportation expenditures in that spot too.
Oh, there's another question.
Yeah, savings during COVID. So COVID was an interesting dynamic for the district. And I will say the district saw significant savings. And I put savings in air quotes because obviously we want to drive dollars back to services to kids to the greatest degree possible. One of the biggest savings during the pandemic was through substitute teachers. Obviously, when we were remote, when our teachers were teaching remote, we had almost no need for substitute teachers. Teachers didn't call in sick. They got online at home and they offered their instruction to kids during that time. So there was significant savings. I would note, for people who understand the scale of that, on any given day in the Beaverton School District, we have somewhere between 300 and 500 staff members, teachers, classified employees, administrators, who are out on some kind of leave, whether they're sick for the day, they're on personal leave, they're on extended leave, et cetera. We have anywhere from 300 to 500 every single day in the Beaverton School District. So that's a pretty significant cost to the institution, for sure. There was also a significant infusion in revenue from the federal government in the ESSER funding dollars. And we have been using those to funnel those back into targeted services for kids now that we're back in buildings, providing wraparound supports, tutoring services, et cetera. And the challenge with that, so our budget right now is proposing to have a fairly significant carryover going into the next year. However, all of that money is one-time budgetary resource. So we are making sure not to fund an ongoing expenditure that we would not be able to sustain with sustainable revenue streams. With the notion that over the next 3 to 5 years, we want to be able to spend those reserves down to provide adequate services to kids on a one-time basis, but not in an immediate, so there's a cliff, so say 2 years from now, we're laying off teachers. We certainly don't want to be in that space. The other significant savings as we came out of the pandemic was due to the staffing shortages we have been facing as people have resorted and resorted priorities coming out of the pandemic. There were a number of positions, in the hundreds across the district where, while we've been able to hire them eventually, they were vacant for some period of time. And every month that a position is vacant, that's an expenditure savings to the institution. So just sort of clarifying that. Can that carryover be able to be used for computers? I mean, it certainly can. The ESSER dollars from the feds have fairly specific parameters about their use, really targeting credit recovery and services for students in that path. And that's where we're focusing it on. Again, we see our technology investments not as a one-time investment, but as an ongoing investment. And the last bond had that as part of a significant piece, and we see that as a continuing capital investment in bonds going forward. Longer-term student population enrollment trends. Again, that, as I talked about, right now we're seeing a slight we were seeing a slight decrease. We have a little bit of a sharper dip as a result of the pandemic, and then probably a continued slight decrease as the lower population body that's right now in elementary school passes through the system. Remember, we're a 13-year enterprise from preschool on up. And so we do have to sort of wait some of these things out and see as the neighborhood and as the community matures to a built out maturity. So homes are built everywhere. And then what is the demographic base? We have a demographer on staff as part of our long range planning. And one of his working theories right now is interesting, is this notion that housing prices in Beaverton, particularly in our wealthier neighborhoods, are high enough that what we're attracting right now is mature families that have secondary age students, middle school or high school age students, which is propping up that demographic. But they don't have elementary age kids. That's not a family population that generally can move in. And then obviously with a lot higher density population, a lot higher density housing being constructed, higher density housing does not necessarily translate into more students for the district. It may be good for the way we plan our cities and neighborhoods to have higher density housing, but those are generally non-student occupied housing in the district as well. We do have some of those enrollment trends posted on the website, and I know it may be hard to dig through. If anybody wants to, they can feel free to email me. It's just david_williams@beaverton.k12.or.us. And it's basically our web address, but david_williams. And you can send me a note and I can see if I can dig up where we have some of those reports on that for sure. Thanks, Dee. Demand on the districts and development. Student growth is always one of those push and pulls in the district, and we've seen that in Beaverton for the last 25 years, right? Student growth is a demand for increase in services. But student growth also comes with it certain benefits, right? Every student that enrolls in the district, I'm getting a state funding for that student, which allows me to expand services. It's not always tied one-to-one. That's always the challenge when we navigate this work. But as we see a decline in enrollment, that does also translate into decline in state revenue for the district. So that there's a bit of a yin and yang, a good and bad when it comes to student enrollment and development. For sure. Thank you.
David, could you type your email address into the chat box? That way everybody will have it. I tried to capture it like.
I just don't know if everybody that's not a panelist or host can see this, but perhaps Virginia, you can save it and send it out to folks. Feel free to do that.
Sure.
Do we require developers to pay for school capital spending? We do to some degree. So we do have what's called a systems development charge. So for new developments in the district, they do pay an SDC, a systems development charge. And that does fund stuff. It obviously, when we're talking about building a high school for $230 million, a systems development charge is not going to come nearly anywhere close to being able to pay for that. We use our system development charges to pay for some ongoing maintenance needs and costs associated with that expansion. And obviously, I would note, buried in this bond proposal, if you dig in there, you'll see a decent amount of continued investment in things like HVAC and security across the district. In things like seismic work, that's another big investment in here. So you see a few of those pieces as well. And we do try to offset some of that with our system development charges, but just from a scale perspective, it's on the smaller end.
Well, it looks to me like we've exhausted everybody's burning questions.
I loved it. Great
for
questions,
attending.
everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea what economic acidity is. I'm a political science major, so that makes no sense to me. Sorry, Roger. Activity. What does it economic to activity? Oh, well, Roger,
Darn that
there
spell
are.
check.
Yeah, I know acidity. I'm like, I don't know. There is. Yeah, right. There is a lot of economic activity that you can chalk up to education spending and education schools. And it's a mix. I don't have the numbers obvious off the top of my head, but obviously we are one of the largest employers in Washington County. We have over 6,000 employees that work for the district, and by and large, most of them work they all work in Washington County. Most of them live in Washington County, and therefore contribute to the economic activity there. When we're doing construction projects, obviously that's an economic activity of the community. Look at what is going on down in the South Cooper Mountain area, and I know that's maybe a little bit of a sore spot. Thank you, Virginia, for the comments about where we bought and built land, but obviously that has created or helped with an enormous development and growth in the South Beaverton area as well. And we see that the same thing with Beaverton High School in the Central Core. I mean, you look at the work that's happening there with the investment in retail and restaurant industry in the Central Core in Beaverton. A signature Beaverton High School sitting right there on Farmington Road can only help but enhance the appeal and atmosphere in that downtown core. So we're excited to be a partner. And in this aspect, when it comes to capital, we are, to a degree, we're like another landowner in the community and an investor. And this is a key stewardship we take seriously. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Virginia. I really appreciate it. And my email was in there. Feel free to reach out if folks have questions. And I think it's time to maybe go cut some cake. I don't know.
Okay. Thanks for attending. Pam, hi. Bruce, do you want to pop on? We call this part of the meeting, it's your CPO. And I didn't really have any topics unless anybody wants to learn more or discuss any further the whole, I don't even want to think about it, the whole Thompson Road to Thompson Crossing development. Did you have anything? Yeah, I know.
I want to give just a short plug for the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District. I have served on the advisory committee for the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District for about 12 years now. and just finished a revision of the advisory committee's bylaws. And I am very encouraged at the seriousness that the sheriff's office has for the advice and participation of the advisory committee. And they, the office agreed to take a more active role in interacting with the advisory committee. So it's more of a two-way thing. And I just am continually impressed at Pat Garrett's leadership in the organization. So, taking my CPO hat off and putting my my own personal hat on, I'm going to vote for the levy renewal as a private citizen. But as a CPO I'll just say, here, I'll put this hat on as the CPO guy. Fill out your ballot and mail it in, and
or drop it off in front of the library.
Drop it off in front of the library in ballot boxes. Put it in the darn mailbox. It's just astounding to me that anybody questions the value of voting by mail. It's just like how it should be, and how it has been for 20 years, and we have not suffered here in Oregon from it. Republican nationwide.
And new this year, you don't have to worry about if you decide you do want to mail your ballot, the postmark is the valid timing for your ballot. You don't have to worry about whether it gets lost in a truck or something, as long as you have it postmarked by the ballot deadline. That's brand new this year. But don't wait.
The one thing that continually gets my goat is that 97229 does not have an actual dang busted post office. All we have is a great big warehouse. I was there mailing a letter a couple of weeks ago, mailing my income tax payment in, and a woman was trying to buy a stamp, and she could not buy a stamp at the post office. And this is like bizarre beyond my ability.
Try to get anything complicated dealt with there, you'll spend half your day. It's
so
awful.
Do we have to call Senator Merkley or Senator Wyden to get them to goad the Postal Service to give us?
We were trying to get a post office in Bethany 20 years ago, and we were told that the post office isn't building any more buildings.
Well, how about if they just rent some industrial park space and put it in there?
I mean, people are continually talking about, can't we bring the contract station back? And believe me, the people that are putting together the Milltown Shopping Center would love to find someone to host it, but it isn't trivial. The company that hosts the contract station pays the employees. So, I mean, you'd think that the extra traffic would make it worth it to somebody, but most of these corporate companies have no interest in it. I don't think we're going to get one at the new coffee shop. So, by the way, Insomnia will be opening soon. Insomnia Coffee.
Oh, that'll help me. So I wonder, is there any process?
That is a good topic for the future, but I tell you, Bruce and I have pretty much beaten that horse to death. The
post office?
The post office.
I haven't beaten it to death at all. It's like, it just annoyed me freshly.
But there's so little we can do at the local level. I mean,
but that's why
another one of those things that
we have two senators. I'm going to write my congressman about it.
Write your congress people. That's a good idea. The check is in the mail. Okay, well, I think we've done it up brown for tonight, unless anybody has any comments or community news or anything they want to share. I don't believe we had a couple of topics for next month, but I can't even remember what they are. The brain fog is real, people. But we muddle on. So thanks everybody for coming. and we'll see you next month.
Fight the good fight.
Bye. Thanks for attending, Pam.
Absolutely. Remember to vote. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Record.